I think it's safe to say that over the years, gaming phones have had many problems. Every single year, they show up with wild specs, wild designs, wild marketing, and a price tag that makes you question whether or not you actually need to eat this month. A top tier chip, a cooling system with 8 different names, RGB lighting that belongs on a NASA control panel, and then you flip it over and you see the price, and suddenly this gaming phone costs more than a PlayStation 5, more than an entry-level gaming PC, and more than rent in the middle of nowhere in Idaho. And that's the biggest problem that I've had with the mobile gaming industry for the longest. If you want serious mobile gaming performance, you have to pay an insane amount of money, which can be a huge problem for most of us that have to deal with this horrible economy. And in today's economy, people can't even afford a PS5. So what makes you think that they want to spend a ton of money on a device that can't even run AAA games? And that's exactly why I feel like a phone like the Infinix GT Pro is very important in such a niche industry, because it's in a realm where its peers cost a fortune, and instead of conforming to that mold, it remained affordable while still giving a top tier performance based on the testing that I do have with it. And this phone is no slouch. Just like its peers, it has a liquid cooling system, a very strong and diverse gaming hub with tons of features, amazing battery life, a ton of accessories, and hardware features that make it very easy to game, even on a small device. And as someone who is known to daily a ton of flagship phones, from the iPhones to the Galaxy Ultras to even the Pixel, many of these phones cost north of $1,000, and that's not a flex, but context does matter. See, when I tell you something on this phone genuinely impressed me, I'm not just saying that it impressed me for the price. I want you to understand the baseline that I'm comparing it to. I've been living with some of the best hardware that money can buy, and the GT50 Pro still managed to catch me off guard in ways that I wasn't expecting. And I would love to take you guys on the journey that I've had with this phone for over a week now, from daily carrying to gaming sessions that went longer than I planned, outdoor use, etc. And I also want to be completely straight with you guys before we get into any of it, because this is not a hype video. I'm going to tell you guys what this phone genuinely gets right, and I am going to tell you what it does get wrong, especially because it does get some things wrong, and you guys do deserve to know that before you make any kind of spending decision. Now, alright, before we get into anything that this phone does well, and there's a lot, I want to talk about what I didn't like during my use with this phone. Now, before I give you guys my main problems with the Infinix GT50 Pro, I do want to give a shout out to today's sponsor, Wondershare. Real quick, this is one of those tools that I wish I had earlier, because there's nothing worse than picking up your phone and realizing that you're locked out. Maybe you forgot your passcode, maybe Face ID just isn't working, or you bought a secondhand phone and it's still locked, and now you're just stuck. But that's where Dr.Fone comes in. It lets you unlock your phone screen safely without needing the passcode. No guessing, no waiting, no stressing. And I tested it myself, and what I like is that it doesn't feel complicated or sketchy like a lot of these other tools. You just plug in your phone, follow a few steps, and you're right back in. So if you've ever been locked out of your own phone, this is one of those things that you don't think about until you really need it. And if you guys are interested, click the link in the description and comment section of today's video. And the first problem could indeed be a deal breaker, and that's the camera. Now look, I'm going to be fair here because I know what this phone is. It's a gaming phone. Nobody's buying the GT50 Pro because they saw the camera specs and got excited. But here's the reality. For a lot of people watching this, this is going to be their main phone, their only phone, and that means that the camera matters whether we want to admit it or not. And as someone who dailies flagship cameras, from the iPhone 17 Pro Max to the Galaxy S26 Ultra to even the Pixel 10 Pro, I definitely knew that there was going to be a gap. I always expected a gap, but what I didn't expect was for this camera to come short in ways that even budget phones are able to hit. Now, starting with pictures, my skin tone was kind of off. It was very subtle, but I could tell the difference in my skin tone when I take them in daylight. It was off in a slightly warm kind of way that you can fix with a quick edit, and not only with my face, but I will also say that colors across the board leaned a little bit inaccurate, and when it came to sharpness, there were shots that I took in decent lighting, no movement, nothing complicated, and they kind of came out soft. Like the phone hesitated on the focus and never really fully committed. In some environments, I was getting visible grain, not that fine texture that you can live with. I'm talking about actual grain that makes you look twice at what you just shot. And when it came to low light, I'll keep it very brief because honestly, the results speak for themselves, and it did struggle noticeably harder than I'd like to admit. So yeah, if cameras are important to your daily life, whether it be content creation, Instagram, or just capturing moments that you actually want to look good, this phone is not really going to be a strong suit for you. And that's not a knock, I'm just being honest based on my experience. Now, the second thing, and this one surprised me even more than the cameras, was the speakers. Now, based on the spec sheet, I wasn't expecting to have a problem here. Dolby Atmos is one of the best names that you can have on your resume, especially in terms of audio, and it was okay in certain contexts like gaming with the audio modes turned on. You can hear it doing something real. It has really good directional audio, and that part is genuine. But in everyday use, from watching YouTube between sessions to running music in the background to even just existing with the phone, the way you actually live with the device day to day, I would say that the speakers don't really deliver in the way that Dolby Atmos badge implies that they should. They're not as loud as I want, they're not as clear as I want, and there's a slightly muffled quality to them that takes the edge off of everything. It's kind of like there's a thin blanket between you and the audio. It's not unlistenable, but it's definitely noticeable. And for a phone that's built its entire identity around the gaming experience, audio being one of the weakest links in that experience is a very frustrating thing that I have to say. Now, of course, you can plug in headphones and the story changes completely, but out of the speakers alone, it's one hardware moment where the price point does show itself very clearly. And the third problem that kept coming up during my week of use was the software stability. Now, I want to be specific here because I don't want to overstate this. In gaming, the phone was rock solid the entire week. Zero crashes mid-session, no frame drops that disrupted anything, no gaming related software problems whatsoever. And I can say that that side of the experience held up very well. But for me, it was really the everyday stuff where I started noticing things. Apps crashing on me during normal use. I open an app, it dies, I close it, I relaunch it. And this happened to me enough times throughout the week that it stopped feeling like a random glitch and started feeling like a pattern. And the thing about software bugs is that they're not that dramatic and they can be fixed. But Infinix having less updates than companies means that they will take longer to fix it than, let's say, Apple or Samsung. So yeah, those are the three main problems that I've had with this phone over the course of my 1 week of use with it. Personally, for me, none of these are reasons that I will walk away from the phone entirely, but depending on how you use your phone, some of them are going to matter more to you than others. And let me know down in the comments if any of these are deal breakers. But alright, let's move on. Let's talk about how this phone looks and feels, because design on a gaming phone is always a conversation worth having. And I think it's safe to say that the GT50 Pro has a very specific opinion about itself. Now, the back texture is Kevlar inspired, modeled after the carbon fiber composites, and I would say that the camera that I'm shooting with does not do this phone justice whatsoever. But I'm genuinely impressed that it still maintained inspiration and produced a cool design while keeping this phone at this price point. Again, it hits all the boxes of what a gaming phone should look and feel like while still being very affordable. It isn't the most simplistic phone that tries to blend in a crowd. It does know its market and it capitalizes on it while still being able to look good in any environment. And as you guys can see right here, there's a transparent window on the back of this phone where you can literally watch the coolant move through the liquid cooling system while you're playing. The liquid is color matched to your colorway, and beyond just looking genuinely cool, it still manages to be useful. And I was surprised because this is something that Infinix didn't really have to do for pricing, but this phone has had many surprises so far. And you also have RGB with 4 crosshair strips on the back, 14 lighting scenarios, 8 colors, and a flip to light feature that activates when you put the phone face down. And it also can react to in-game events in real time with games that do support it. So as you guys can tell, as far as customization, this phone is a lot and very overwhelming, but I'm one of those people who always appreciates when a phone company goes above and beyond. So yeah, that's kind of my honest summary of this phone's design overall. No peeling, no wear, and no scratches on the back despite 0 case usage. Gorilla Glass 7i on the front held up perfectly. Not a single mark after 7 days, which genuinely surprised me because I did drop it down the stairs like twice. At 198 grams and 8mm thick, it's slightly chunkier than your average flagship, but never really felt heavy or awkward during long sessions. And the GT triggers on the right frame definitely felt integrated. And at this price point, it is understandable. So if you do decide to get this phone, you do need to be careful. Now, the first thing that I noticed when I turned this phone on wasn't the resolution or the color accuracy or any of that. It was the smoothness. Coming from flagship phones where I'm used to 90 to 120 Hz, 144 Hz on this display was extremely surprising. Swiping between apps and just navigating a phone in general felt incredibly smooth, but honestly didn't really feel too different from 120. Also, another shocker to me was that not every app supported 144 Hz, so in many cases, it was somewhat limited, but I'm not going to cry about a few extra Hertz that no one would notice anyway. In terms of visuals, the resolution is at 1.5K on a 6.78-inch AMOLED panel, and in real life, that means that everything looks sharp and clean without being too excessive. text is crisp, game visuals are detailed, and the colors are rich and accurate without that oversaturated look that makes everything look fake. So overall, I say that it's a balanced display and it's not really trying too hard. I took this phone out in direct sunlight in the middle of the afternoon, no shade, and I could see everything on the screen without squinting or tilting the phone at weird angles trying to find a shadow. Another cool thing about this phone was that the touch sampling rate was at 2800 Hz. Basically in gaming, that translates to the screen registering your inputs almost instantly. Every single tap, every single swipe, and every single trigger press, there's no perceptible delay between what your finger does and what happens on the screen. And I found it pretty cool because when I review my flagship phones, this really isn't something that I normally talk about, but in competitive games where a fraction of a second can matter, that responsiveness is very real, and it can also give you a slight advantage, which you should have if you have a gaming phone compared to a regular flagship. Another cool feature was that it also had motion sickness relief. And this basically adjusts the way that certain visual elements render to reduce the discomfort that some people feel during fast moving gameplay. I personally don't really get motion sick from phone gaming, so I can't really speak on how dramatic the difference is, but I turned it on and it was pretty cool, and it's there for people who need it, and the fact that it does exist at this price point is very notable. So yeah, just like everything about this phone, the display on the GT50 Pro over delivers for what this phone costs. The smoothness is real, the brightness handles real world conditions, and the eye comfort tech is something that I didn't expect to notice, but genuinely appreciated after a week of use. But alright, as you guys already know, gaming matters the most when it comes to a phone that built its whole identity around this idea. Because everything that we've talked about before, from the design to the display, it's all building towards this. Now, starting with the chip, it has a Dimensity 8400 Ultimate 4nm process, octa-core, all big cores running up to 3.25 GHz. And I want to just skip past the technical breakdown for a second and just tell you what that means in actual gameplay, because that's what you're here for. Now, I played many shooters on this phone for many hours, not a quick demo session, not a stage test, actual long sessions the way that I actually game. And on the games where it supported, it held 144 frames per second consistently. Not every game will support 144 frames per second, but in the games that did, they performed very, very well. And another fun fact is that the chip is basically generating additional frames between the ones the game is actually producing to push. And I found it really cool how this phone was able to cap out on frames with a chip like the Dimensity 8400. So yeah, I think it's safe to say that the chip is performing much better than I expected. And while I want to be transparent about what's actually happening under the hood, the end result in real gameplay is a meaningfully smoother experience, and that's what truly counts. Ray tracing is also supported on the Dimensity 8400 Ultimate, which combines with MediaTek's adaptive game technology, which gives you better visual fidelity and supported titles without destroying your frame rate or your battery in the process. This phone also has 12 gigs of native RAM with 12 gigs of extended RAM on top of that. So in practice, that means that apps stay loaded in memory, game load times are fast, and I never once felt like the phone was struggling to keep up what I was asking it to do. But alright, now let's talk about the GT triggers, because this was the feature that I was most skeptical about, and I'm not gonna lie, it really surprised me the most by the end of the week. Now it's kind of a physical pressure sensitive button built into the right frame of the phone, and that's what kind of makes it different from other shoulder triggers. Instead of traditional buttons that sit on the top of the frame, it cuts directly into it, and Infinix says that this makes the pressure sensing signal significantly stronger and more responsive. And honestly, in use, it does feel more precise than other shoulder triggers that I've used on other gaming phones. It supports 4 actions: light press, heavy press, left slide, right slide, 8 mapping points, 10 sensitivity levels, and under 20 milliseconds of input latency. And I want to manage expectations here. It's not a console controller, but it's definitely the closest a phone has gotten to that feel in my experience. The latency is low enough to the point where there's no delay that you can consciously perceive between what your finger does and what actually happens on screen. And there's also a swipe to switch feature. Slide both triggers inward simultaneously, and you can cycle between 3 mode functions, from system features to quick combos to GT trigger mode. And beyond gaming, the trigger does have some real everyday utility. You could do single tap to take a photo, long press for burst shots, slide right to trigger adjust zoom, and you can even use it for screen recording. And I really enjoyed the fact that Infinix made it something more important than just gaming. You also have esports mode, which is accessed through X Arena with a single tap. There's the AI gaming tools, the AI AI smart trigger, which recognizes in-game scenarios automatically. There's AI voice prompt, which gave me real-time callouts during gameplay. And last but not least, you have AI zone touch master, which optimizes touch responsiveness across different zones of the screen for low latency precision. And there's just so many features on this phone that are very overwhelming, and I just could not use all of it within a week. So the bottom line is this: as a combined package, from the performance to the triggers all the way down to the gaming software on the GT50 Pro, this is the most complete gaming experience that I've seen at this price point. Is it overwhelming? Hell yes. But as someone who is constantly overpaying on phones that don't do any of this, I honestly cannot complain. Now, when it came to battery life, on paper, 6500 milliamp hours sounds very impressive, especially at this price point. And I do want to tell you whether or not that number actually holds up in real life. Now, in my week of testing, I was getting through full days without thinking about a charger, not barely scraping through, but genuinely comfortable. Mixed usage of social media, YouTube, some calls, and heavy gaming sessions mixed in, and I was consistently hitting around 8 to 9 hours of screen on time before needing to plug in. Gaming only, every single game I played was in high settings, closer to 7 to 8 hours depending on what I was running, and for a gaming phone, that is very exceptional. It also comes down to the Dimensity 8400 being about 44% more power efficient than the previous phone. Basically, less power draw from the chip means that the battery isn't being drained as aggressively during gameplay, which is very beneficial in daily use. The 50 Pro also supports 45 watt wired charging, and I do think 45 watts is very fast, especially since Infinix made up for it with very good battery life. Basically, I will put my phone on a charger for about an hour, and by the time I was ready to game again, I had full battery life. So yeah, I think it's safe to say that the Infinix GT50 Pro is one of the most interesting phones that I've reviewed this year. And I say that as someone who spends most of their time with devices that cost 2 to 3 times more than this one. The cooling system is real, the display over delivers, the battery gets you through a full day of heavy gaming without anxiety, and there was just so many things that this phone has going for it, especially at this price point. So yeah, if you game on your phone and you don't want to spend flagship money to do it very well, this is the answer right now. Peace.